Hello, my friends, hello, and welcome once again to Stately Von Manor, where today we're going to be talking about my astounding science fiction project. A project I came up with because, well, my favorite kind of genre is science fiction. And my favorite kind of science fiction is vintage science fiction. And I feel like I haven't read as much vintage science fiction over the past couple years as I wanted to. You know, I've been reading all kinds of stuff, but not as much of that as I wanted to. And so I was thinking, well, how can I get more vintagey science fiction into my reading? So I came up with kind of a fun project for myself, and I will share it now with you. I was thinking about old-timey science fiction, which made me think about the old Astounding Magazine. And Astounding Magazine that was edited for a long time by John W. Campbell. And he kind of had a stranglehold on science fiction for a while. Back in the 40s, science fiction was pretty much his version of science fiction because there wasn't a lot of different science fiction magazines or pulps out there. He had Astounding, which became Astounding Science Fiction, which later became Analog. But for a long time, until the early 50s, he didn't have a ton of competition. So if you wanted to sell a science fiction story, you pretty much had to go along with his kind of rigid ideas about what science fiction was and should be. And a lot of great stuff came out of that magazine, but a lot of really great stuff came once he had competition and more people could write science fiction the way they wanted to write it. And so by the mid to late 50s, you got all kinds of different kinds of science fiction stories. And of course, by the 60s, all kinds of interesting stuff was being written. But I was thinking about the old-timey Astounding Science Fiction Magazine. And I was thinking, you know, what must it have been like to be a regular reader of that magazine? And so I thought, wouldn't it be cool? This is how my brain works. Wouldn't it be cool if I could have been back there at that time and read like Astounding every month for a year or something? What would that be like? And so I decided I would do that. I would read Astounding Magazine. I would read a year's worth of Astounding Magazine. And so I had to get a year's worth of Astounding Magazine. So then I had to decide, well, what year can I get? And I decided on 1951 for a couple practical reasons. First practical reason is it's hard to get a whole year's run of Astounding from the 40s because all kinds of important stuff was being published. A bunch of really important Isaac Asimov stories, a bunch of other really important, groundbreaking stuff was being published. And so it's hard to get a year's run of the magazine from the 40s affordably. You can do it, of course, but affordably. And so I thought, well, maybe the early 50s, because the early 50s is an interesting time because that was the point where he was getting competition. Other science fiction magazines were bursting on the scene in the early 50s, right around 1950. And so that was an interesting time, and it's also around the same time he started getting into like weird stuff like Dianetics, and that stuff started showing up. So I thought, well, that would be extra fun. So I decided I'm going to read a year's worth of Astounding Science Fiction from 1951. 1951 would be the year. I'd start in January and end after a year's worth of issues. I'd just read all of this. So I got that much Astounding to read. And I thought that would be fun. So first off, of course, I've got January here. January is one of the ones that's in worse shape. But this is January 1951. This one does show the limits of this kind of thing because it has a serial and it has the last part of the serial. Has a serial. What's the story called? Here it is, The Hand of Zell, or Zai. The Hand of Zai by L. Sprague de Camp. Conclusion. So it's got the last bit of that serial. So I'm going to try to find, if I could find that story someplace else so I could read the whole story. Otherwise, I'm going to have to do just like they did back in the olden days. If you couldn't find the previous issue, you just had to read the part that you had, and it had like a bit at the front that would tell you what happened in previous installments. But that's what I'll have to do if I can't find that story, just like they did in the old-timey days. So, that's fair. But, looking through these, one of the interesting things about these old magazines, it's not just the stories, I'm assuming many of which have been reprinted, and a lot of them probably haven't. But a lot of the artwork is really cool from these old issues. And that stuff, by and large, has probably just, vanished. A lot of this stuff. And a lot of the artwork is pretty cool. So that's one of the things I'm looking forward to. So yeah, this is January right here. And February is really cool. Here's February 1951. I think I've shown these at least one time before, when I was just conceiving of this project. But now I have all of them. So this is really cool. Here's February. Look at that guy. And of course, on the back, you see what I'm saying, Dianetics instruction courses. And then we've got March 1951. That's pretty cool. Look at the rocket ships. Look at that guy. Just cool stuff. And like I said, the art is just really cool in these guys. All kinds of like just really cool old artwork in here. Then I've got April 1951. That's pretty cool. More Dianetics on the back. He's really pushing that stuff. And got Galactic Gadgeteers by Harry Stein on the May 1951 issue. That is an interesting cover. No Dianetics on the back of this one. It's just a regular advertisement. Guess again. Then we've got June 1951, which is the last of these that I have acquired. And so I was happy to get this one because it completed the year for me. So that's a pretty cool cover too. And Then There Were None, Eric Frank Russell. His story in there. Cool stuff. Then I've got July 1951. This is a cool one. This is August 1951. More Dianetics on the back. And then we've got The Day of the Moron by H. Beam Piper. The Day of the Moron there. And yeah, so that's September 1951. So much cool stuff. And this one is the beginning of a new serial, which fortunately is complete. This is October 1951. This is Ice World by Hal Clement, which I remember having the paperback of this story, although I don't remember reading it. So this will be my first time reading Ice World, even though I used to have a copy of Ice World in paperback. So this will be cool. This is part one of Ice World in October 1951. And we've got November 1951. And Astounding is changing their cover designs here in November. And the final issue, December 1951. And so next month, I'm going to have to read a few different issues of this to catch up, so I could read it month by month, which would be cool. I'm starting this late, but that's okay. So yeah, that's my exciting project, which I will be giving you updates on during my monthly wrap-ups, of course, and I'll be telling you how each of these issues was, and I'll be telling you what was in them and all the weird stuff I find in them, because I'm sure I'll find some weird stuff in these magazines. So that's my astounding project, because I just needed one more thing to do. Catch me tomorrow for the Sunday Penguin, I'm hoping. I'm hoping. Okay, guys, you have a great day.